The phone rang past midnight. Sarah's name lit up the screen. My heartbeat changed, that same tightness in my chest that never really left, the kind that makes your dreams feel small. I listened to the ring, hoping the sound might change, but it never does. Always the same, always expectant. Always sentences that begin with, "Dad, hello?" I said. The moment I heard my own voice, I realized I'd been asleep. But asleep isn't the right word for this. It was more accurate to say I'd closed my eyes, but my mind remained outside. "In bed, but not in bed, Dad." Her voice was calm. That's what made it dangerous. Calmness hides firmness underneath. "Dad, the rent wasn't paid. The landlord is angry." 6 months. I sat down. I sat on the edge of the bed. I was still wearing my shoes. I'd slept wearing shoes, and I couldn't remember how many times I'd done this. But the shoes always had to stay on, because Sarah could call at any moment. Sarah's problem was my problem. Sarah's fear was my panic. "How much?" I said, no preamble. No, "How are you?" direct, because that's how Sarah and I speak. Not as daughter and father. As money machine and its operator. 6,000 lira, Dad. 2 months of rent combined. Ismail's salary was late again. The fuel transaction didn't go through again. Ismail, my daughter's husband. A veterinarian, 4 years married, 5 years of the same excuses. His business is failing, he has debts, credit card limits are maxed out. I never loved Ismail, but because I love my daughter, I've had to pay for him. Not love him, start paying for him. "I'll send it," I said. What else could I say? "Thank you, Dad." Her tone shifted. No longer calm, no longer grateful, more like relief that the problem was solved. Baba would solve it. Tomorrow the rent gets paid, the landlord goes silent, and Sarah would step away from the phone. Like an old chair gathering dust in the corner, I remained on the phone. Abandoned. She hung up. I hung up too. I held the phone in my hands for a while. The screen went dark. Is 047 night. No one was sleeping, but everyone was angry. Sarah was angry because there was a problem, and Dad hadn't solved it fast enough. Ismail was angry, maybe because I was pulling his wife away from him. And me, Robert Kaya, 43 years old, when someone on the phone says, "Pay the rent," I don't even have the chance to feel angry, because anger is a luxury. Luxury only exists when you're safe. I got up and turned on every light in the house. I sat in the corner of the living room in an old armchair. Beneath it were empty coffee cups. I couldn't remember how long they'd been there. An old man drinks coffee, leaves the cup on the table, forgets it, then drinks again, and cups accumulate. If cups were accumulating in my life, then I was getting old. But getting old? Was it only measured in years, I wondered? Getting old was hearing someone say, "The rent wasn't paid," and not being shocked even the second time. I put the phone in my pocket. It might ring again. Maybe Sarah would call back. "Dad, unfortunately, the rent fell short again. Should we feed 100 people? Maybe Ismail would call me directly. Maybe it was time for a lawyer. A court. Still, if the phone stayed silent, I would sit here, waiting, because waiting was my job. I looked at the wall pictures. Sarah at graduation. Nutrition department, holding her diploma, smiling. 3 days after the photo was taken, she told me, "Dad, I can't find a job." After 3 months of added searching, she found her first position. A hotel chain's nutrition consultant. 5,000 lira salary. In the first 3 months, I gave her 3,000 more for extra lessons. Another picture. Sarah and Ismail's wedding. I'm sitting at the table, a forced smile on my face. My daughter, in a wedding dress, dancing with her father. I'm not anyone's father in that photo. I'm the man who withdraws money. One more picture. Sarah and my grandchildren. Yigit, 6 years old. Zeynep, 3 years old. They carry my genes. But do they love me? I don't know. We talk on the phone. "Grandpa, Before he can finish, his mother's voice. "Yigit, Grandpa is busy. We'll talk later." Later never came. I closed my eyes. 43 years. I, Robert Kaya, spent 43 years trying to be the solution to an equation. The equation was father, money. If money doesn't work, father doesn't work either. If money runs out, father is also finished. When Sarah was 9, Fusun's illness began. When the assistant doctor told me, "Tumor in the uterine area next to the operating table," I pretended I understood everything. But I didn't. Death at that time was just a word. Death became real afterward. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, Ismail. There was no Ismail in this situation, just Fusun and me and Sarah. I slept in hospital corridors. Hospital chairs, silent people sitting, stretching their heads to beds when the clock turned toward morning, managing sleep that way. Various engineering of sleep. I got 3 hours of sleep because I couldn't extend my legs, then I'd wake up. "To check on Fusun, Robert," she'd say, and I measured her illness by the weakness in her voice. If there was strength when she said Robert, the surgery was in an early stage. If she called Robert without pronouncing the R, then chemotherapy's side effects had begun. No, not malaria. Chemotherapy's effects, Sarah sometimes didn't go to school. Once the teacher found out, when she said, "Sarah, your mother will get better," I knew from a distance this was a lie. But Sarah needed to believe it, to keep her alive. In the evenings, Sarah's door was left open. I watched my daughter sleep, her breathing, her chest rising, falling, This simple movement was enough for me back then. Maybe that's why I was alive. So this rise and fall could continue. Fusen lasted 3 years. 3 years of illness. 3 years of pain. 3 years of me, Robert, taking my daughter to school while Fusen's hair fell out. Me lifting her from the bathroom, collecting her hair in pellets from the floor, hoping it would stop, but it didn't. Death came like a photograph. Suddenly, the first time, death was this close. When Fusen's hands grew cold, when I, Robert, who had forgotten how to pray, understood that you can't buy your way out of death, that money doesn't save you from dying. 3 days later, Sarah's mother was gone. What came after was mathematics. Only mathematics. Morning. Wake up. Get Sarah out of bed. Make her breakfast. Remember the nutrition pyramid, because Fusen said the nutrition pyramid matters. Milk group, grain group, protein. Give the child the proper nutrients, and she's almost alive. Work. Go to the accounting firm, control the calculations of men in shirts, bank statements, money movements. Calculations for others. My own calculation was special. Money. Sarah. Noon. Come home. Make lunch. Butcher, cheese, olive oil. Remember Fusen's recipes. Robert, when you fry vegetables, but it was for my daughter now. Let the vegetables fry. After school, wait for Sarah. Go back home. Check her homework, math, English, social studies. Wait, I know these subjects too. We studied them in high school, evening. Watch TV with Sarah. Maybe a smile comes out. Maybe the girl is just pretending to watch TV, but she's listening to whether the voice is mine. I keep my voice soft, calm, safe, because until her mother comes back, this voice is hers too. Outside this routine, there was no other light. No friends, no entertainment. Does a man get friends when his daughter is this age? I don't know. I forgot how to be a man because I raised a girl. When Sarah turned 13, I first realized my daughter doesn't remember her mother. I showed her pictures. Your mother was very beautiful, Sarah, but looking at the photos, there was an emptiness in Sarah's eyes. My daughter wasn't seeing a mother in the picture. Just another woman. Maybe because I'd taken the loss of a mother from her, I was also taking her mother away from her with these pictures. When I thought about this, my chest tightened. I'm 40 and I'm supposed to be both father and mother to my daughter, but there's only me. But I'm a father. A father is less made of love than mothers are. A father is stability, work, money, but a father, when he softens, is also warm. For me, for Sarah, being a father was both mixed together. At night, after putting my daughter to bed, I sat at my own desk. I checked the calculations. One page, Sarah's school expenses. I planned for university because if she studied nutrition, she'd have a good job. Maybe she'd become a researcher. Maybe she'd work abroad. But these were my fantasies. The reality was this. Father comes home, opens Sarah's door, sees his daughter. His heart gets a little heavier. Because with each passing day, my daughter was becoming more distant. She was separating from childhood. She was filling the void she felt, but didn't understand with friendships. She wanted less time with her father. She wanted more time in her cell phone, I knew. Despite knowing, I held on. I clung. Because Sarah was the last thing I could measure my worth against. If Sarah left, I would leave too. When Sarah started university, the first thing I calculated was the cost. University tuition, 50,000 lira. Books, 8,000 lira. Lab classes, 100,000 lira. Certification training, 75,000 lira. Housing for her to live outside, 30,000 lira per month. Food, transportation, social, 8,000 lira per month. I didn't even use a calculator. I did it in my head. Each sum crumbled me a little more, but while calculating, I also started to feel good. Because this money was buying something. What? I know, maybe one day, maybe Sarah would remember this. Maybe one day my daughter would say, "Dad, I love you." And that wouldn't be money, it would be real. But this too became fantasy. I saw Sarah's friends in pictures from campus. Rich girls. Their fathers owned businesses. Their mothers were designers. Their houses were villas. Sarah stood out a bit among them. I wanted to clean her up, but how? The girl also knew she had fewer resources than a few of her close friends. "Dad," she said one day on the phone, "first month of university. My friends are going to Istanbul next weekend. Do you need to give me money for the vaccine? Do I need to give her money? Like an invoice?" She was asking directly, "Dad, do you have money like that?" There was no expectation of my joy, maybe. But I, hoping to see joy in her, didn't see it. "How much?" I said, 3,000 lira, Dad. Hotel, food, transportation, all together. 3,000 lira. It meant I'd skip eating for a week. But my daughter wanted it. My daughter wanted to stay equal with her friends. My daughter didn't want to be the poor child. I had no choice but to do this. "Okay," I said. "I'll transfer the money. Thank you, Dad." There was gratitude in that voice, and mixed in was a tiny bit of love. Maybe for the only reason I keep this accounting going even now is to remember that voice. University lasted 4 years. 4 years while I worked, kept accounts, cut money, sent it to Sarah, kept track. 4 years while my daughter got used to taking this money. Finally, graduation. Sarah became a nutrition consultant. Her salary was 5,000 lira, 5,000 lira, the result of 5 years of investment. 5,000 lira. So she'd started producing money. So she no longer needed my help, but she still needed it. Just in a different way. Meeting Ismail happened one evening over the phone. Dad, Sarah said, there's someone, a veterinarian. I like him, a veterinarian, an animal doctor. His father was a civil engineer. His mother was a bank director. When I looked on social media, Ismail's photo radiated confidence. My daughter loved this man, I could see. Are you happy? I asked. Very happy, Dad, she said, and her voice was different. For the first time, Sarah had something I didn't own. Someone else was making my daughter happy. Not me. It frightened me at first. But then I felt relieved, because maybe this meant I was no longer responsible. I was no longer a father. I was a money machine. And money machines can be replaced. The wedding had 500 guests. Ismail's side was made up of very wealthy people. Doctors, engineers, bankers. Me, an accountant, Sarah's father, nothing else. At my table, strangers sat across from me. I stayed quiet at the table. I ate my food. I drank wine. I rarely drank wine. But one night, when your only daughter was marrying someone else, the situation being serious felt heavy. Sarah came over in the evening, said, "Thank you, Dad, for everything," kissed my cheek. But the kiss was quick, automatic. My daughter was already beside Ismail, no longer beside me. I'm no longer Dad in my daughter's life now. Dad is a format that exists after the wedding, but it's not alive anymore. Ismail's father approached me, as if he said Robert, but he didn't say Robert, he said brother. Brother, very beautiful daughter. You've been a good father, like it was a finished job, like my daughter was finished, like I had finished her. But I wasn't finished. I was never finished. Maybe I'd continue forever. Maybe I'd spend my whole life solving this equation. Daughter plus money. Love. But this equation's answer wasn't coming out. In the first year of their marriage, I didn't see Sarah much. On the phone, she'd ask, "Dad, are you okay?" But she'd end her first sentence with "my house." So I had a house. So I was an expense, Sarah, I said one day. I missed you. Me too, Dad, she replied. But that "me too" wasn't "I love you." This was my first time hearing it as a dismissal. Ismail's business started to fail a year later. Dad, Sarah said. Her voice was the old voice, the voice of pain, the voice of worry. Ismail has debts. Creditors are coming to the door. How much? I said, because I knew this sentence would come. I knew this sentence always came. 100,000 lira, Dad. Can you help? Can I help? As if I had a choice. As if I could say no. But could I say no? My daughter wanted it. My daughter was in need. My daughter would sink without me. The money went. What came after was faster. Sarah wanted to buy a house. There's a nice place in Borsa, she said. How much? 300,000 lira, Dad. The money went. A grandson was born. Dad, it's a boy. A phone call in joy. But I only found its cost. Hospital, doctor, medical services. 50,000 lira between girl and birth. The money went. A year later, a granddaughter. 40,000 lira. The money went. 4 years, while I worked, I cut money and sent it out. I kept accounts. Sometimes I slept 4 hours. And even if I had a gold tooth left, I was ready to sell it. The only thing I heard from Sarah was, Dad, how much can you send? Maybe this is love. Maybe a father exists for this. Maybe I was born not to be emotionally engaged, but to be useful. And I was useful. Maybe I never wanted love. Maybe I just wanted to be needed. And I was needed. Past midnight. Dad, the rent wasn't paid. 43 years. For 43 years, I waited to hear this question. And now, at 43 years old, this question is as old as my love. This time, I said nothing. Dad? Sarah said. Can you hear me? I can hear, I said. But hearing wasn't the problem. Understanding was, so how much? Sarah asked. Silence. Long silence. Maybe for the first time, I didn't answer with a voice, but with silence. Dad, please, Sarah said. There's a first in her voice. Forgiveness? Fear? I don't know. But at that moment, I understood. My daughter was waiting for money, not a father. Sarah, I said. My voice was different. Not calm, but not angry either. More like a finished sound. I'm not sending money. Silence. In a few seconds, I felt myself age. Maybe my daughter did too. Dad, this isn't a joke, Sarah said. What about the kids? Will the landlord lock us out? Let him lock you out, I said. Maybe when you lock your own door, you'll realize that life doesn't continue without me. Maybe you'll realize that without me, things don't work. Dad, have you lost your mind? Have I lost my mind? Maybe, or maybe for the first time I found it. I don't know. But when I hung up that phone, something broke free inside me. Maybe this was freedom. Maybe this was death. The phone rang again. Ismail called an hour later. Robert, talk to me. What's happening? He said, not respectfully, just worried. Ismail, I said. For 43 years I sent money. For 43 years I worked. Maybe you should work a little too. I hung up. The next morning, when I looked at my face in the mirror, I saw a different man. Old, wrinkled, but there was something new in the eyes. Maybe this was courage. Maybe this was guilt. I don't know. But me, for the first time this morning, I thought I was alive for myself. The first day, I did nothing. I sat. I didn't drink coffee. Not tea, nothing. I just sat. The room was silent. The silence of the room even frightened me, because silence meant emptiness, and I had to fill that emptiness. But I didn't know what to fill it with. For 43 years, I filled the emptiness with money. But money is finished now. The second day, I went to the bank. I froze the account. I canceled automatic transfers. The bank manager looked at me. Are you sure, Mr. Kaya? He asked. Sure, I said. But I was not sure. I was never sure. But I'm doing it because if I don't do it, I will disappear. The third day, the phone never stopped. It rings. I don't answer. It rings. It rings. My not answering means we're finished. We means me. I finished. The fourth day, I made a decision. I searched online. Father-daughter relationships. Emotional manipulation. Love expectation. Hours passed. I read articles. I read forums. I read other people's stories. It was the same as mine. The same as me. Father money. Daughter thinks she deserves it. Father waits for love. Daughter thinks she's paying a debt. Both get the wrong things. Both are right. Both are wrong. In the morning, I found a phone number. A psychiatrist, Dr. Merkin, family therapist. When I researched, I saw that this therapist specialized in father's trauma. Fathers like me, I made an appointment. Dr. Merkin's office was silent. Gray walls, soft colors, comfortable chairs. On the desk, a box of tissues I'd never seen before, as if crying were a normal thing here. Robert, Dr. Merkin said. Middle-aged, calm voice. I can listen to you. I sat down. Hours passed. Maybe 2 hours. Maybe 3. I talked. I talked about Fusen's death, about raising Sarah, about sending money, about hanging up phones. Dr. Merkin listened. He never judged. He never said you were wrong. He just listened. And occasionally he asked questions. Robert, have you told Sarah I love you? I thought. Many times, I said. But did Sarah say it? Silence. Never, I said. So you tried to buy Sarah's love with money? My heart rate increased. No, because Robert, love cannot be bought. Money you send shows your responsibility. But love, that's something else. My eyes got wet. I love her, I said. I know, Dr. Merkin said. But has Sarah felt that? Or has Sarah only felt the money? This question broke me into pieces. For 3 weeks, I went to therapy twice a week. In Dr. Merkan's office, I faced feelings I'd never known. Guilt, anger, situations where I wanted apologies. Maybe from Sarah. Maybe I wanted Sarah to apologize to me. Dad, I shouldn't have used you like that. Maybe I wanted to tell Sarah, I wasn't forced to send this much money. Maybe I wanted to tell her, I didn't want to measure my love for you with money. Robert, Dr. Merkin said in one session, now would you like to talk with Sarah? I'm afraid, I said, fear is normal, but without talking, this will continue. He was right. I opened my phone. I chose to write to Sarah, because on the phone, maybe I could easily hang up. With writing, it was harder to escape. Sarah, I want to talk to you. Can you make time? The answer came late, maybe half an hour. Yes, Dad, what's happening? I was in Dr. Merchan's office and I typed the answer. I'm going to therapy. Maybe our relationship needs a conversation. Maybe a real conversation. She opened a video call. Immediately. When I saw my daughter's face, my heart raced. Sarah looked worried. Dad, what's happening? Are you sick? No, I said. But I was behaving sick. Maybe I still am. I want to talk to you. Really talk. Silence, Sarah, I said. For 43 years, I showed my love through money. Every time. No conditions. But I think I was trying to connect with you through money. I thought I was creating love through money, but I was wrong. Love isn't money. Love is time, talking, being together. Sarah started to cry. Dad, Listen, Sarah, I wanted to punish you by cutting the money. That was wrong. I did it out of anger. But I'm going to therapy. Maybe we can talk differently. Maybe I can show you that I love you, not through money, but through words. Dad, Sarah said. Her voice changed. I love you. But I knew you were sending all that money, and I used it many times. Did I behave badly? No, Sarah, you didn't behave badly. But maybe we both spoke the wrong language. I spoke money, you answered with your voice. Each of us got the wrong thing. Maybe now we can start in a different language. Silence. Long silence. Dad, how will the rent be paid? Sarah asked eventually. Sarah, I said. I smiled. It was the first time I smiled during this whole period. Dad won't send money, but Dad will sit with you and Ismail will make a budget plan together. I'll teach you money management. Maybe that's the best gift I can give you, Dad, Sarah said. This is very hard. I know, sweetheart, I said, but maybe hard is good. The first month was very difficult. Sarah expected money to be sent. I couldn't send it. The landlord had to pay rent himself. The landlord got angry. Ismail called me. Robert, this is causing problems, he said. But I was patient. Dr. Merkin told me, setting boundaries is not love. But in the long run, it's healthier love. So, never send money? I asked, you can send, but conditional. Maybe Sarah and Ismail will put what percentage of their own income toward house expenses. Maybe you won't pay for their debts, but you'll help. Maybe send money for education or a skill. But for routine expenses, no, this made sense. But at the same time, Sarah started crying. On the phone. From stress, Dad, she said. My relationship with Ismail is already bad. If you cut the money too, when we separate, what will I do for the kids? This was real. This I knew. But Dr. Mershon told me, Robert, managing Sarah's life is not your job. Sarah's choices are Sarah's, a difficult truth. I told Sarah, sweetheart, I support you, but I'm not a god who can solve all problems. Maybe you'd like to go to therapy too, Sarah went. For the first time, 3 months later, I was still going to therapy. Sarah was going once a week. Dr. Merkin suggested a family session. I asked Sarah if she wanted therapy. At first, she said, you're joking. But then, okay. In the session, there was me. Sarah and Dr. Merkin, over video call. Sarah, Dr. Merkin said, your father showed his love through money. How did that feel? Happy, Sarah said, but worried. Because if I made a mistake, maybe Dad's love would end. Robert, Dr. Merkin said. Did you hear that? My heart broke. Sarah was worried despite billions sent. She was worried because love was conditional. Sarah, I said. For 43 years, I measured my love with money. And I realize now that's the problem. Love won't end even if I cut the money. Or it shouldn't. But this is about me, not about you. Dad, Sarah said, I love you very much. But I felt like I owed you. Maybe I saw love as debt. Dr. Merkin stepped in. I want to suggest something to both of you. Robert, you say to Sarah, I love you, but I won't finance your life. You're an adult, but I'll be there for you in hard times. I'm sorry because for so long I did the opposite. I said it. I said it while crying. Sarah said, Dad, I'm sorry. I saw you only as money, and I used you. But I love you. Maybe now I realize it. 6 months later, Sarah and Ismail were separating. They were trying to do it civilly. Sarah had found a job, nutrition consulting, but her own business. Clients came to her home. Ismail was doing veterinary work, but was preparing to open his own clinic. When I started giving Sarah information instead of money, Sarah really listened to me for the first time. Accounting, taxes, business plans. I taught Sarah. Sarah learned. The phones changed. She no longer asked for money. More like, Dad, I don't understand this writing. Or, Dad, this client won't pay. What should I do? This was love. This was being a father. A father counselor. A father guide. A father love. One day, my grandson Yigit video called me. Grandpa, he said, I want to come to your office. My heart raced. Why, my boy? Because Mom talks about you a lot. She says you're an accountant. When I grow up, I want to be an accountant too, I cried. Silently. My grandson wanted to be like me. Because I'd shown him what I do. Not money, work, sacrifice, love. Okay, Yigit, I said. Help me. Dad has a document in the office. Can you solve the code of the data like an adult? Yigit was happy. We worked. Simple things. But he worked. And I said to him, very good, while we worked. Maybe for the first time I said it not after sending money, but while working together, me, Robert Kaya, I'm 60 years old. I go to therapy once a month. Dr. Merkin said, very good. But I wanted to keep going, because I was still discovering myself. Money is now a different tool, a tool for helping. But love is something else. Sarah separated from Ismail. But it went well, because Sarah no longer said, if Dad sends money, I can survive. Sarah said, I will build my own life. I loved my grandchildren, and they loved me. Yigit wanted to learn accounting. Zeynep wanted to become an artist. I told both of them, draw your own life. Not money, life. One day, Sarah came to me. At home, my daughter, 28 years old, but still sat next to her father, in the old armchair. Dad, she said, I don't know how much to thank you. Don't thank me, Sarah. When you separated, I was scared. I thought I ruined her life. But you stood up. Maybe you were always strong. Maybe I just didn't see it, Dad, Sarah said. Maybe I was weak. Maybe I was too dependent. But you're going to therapy, maybe it made me go to therapy too. Maybe we became a family, maybe for the first time. Silence. A good silence at home with my daughter. I understood I was no longer alone. Maybe I never was, Sarah, I said. For 43 years, money did the talking. For 1 year, therapy helped me listen. Maybe I'm late, but maybe not. But I want to thank you because maybe now I can love you without money, Sarah cried. I love you, Dad, she said. Not, thank you, not, we'll talk later. I love you. And this time, I knew it was real. 6 months later, I decided to retire. For 43 years, I worked. For money. Money like a tree, one side shadow, the other side light. I always lived in the shadow. Maybe it was time to live in the light. Sarah asked, Dad, will your money be enough? Yes, sweetheart, I said. But maybe you send some money to me. Not to send money, but to live together. Dad, aren't you offering me a house? No, Sarah, you build your own house. But I'll come to you every Friday. And you come to me. Maybe that way we'll become a real family. At 48 years old, my daughter told me for the first time, Dad, I want to live with you, not send me money. I want to live with you. Me, Robert Kaya, I'm 60 years old. For 43 years I sent money. For 1 year I went to therapy. Now I'm living. Maybe my daughter thought I had no money. But for 43 years I felt like I had no love. Because I measured love with money. Because I measured my value with the money I sent. Now I understand. My value isn't money. My value is me, Robert, father, human. Maybe it's late. Maybe it's on time. I don't know. But today, I'm sitting with my daughter, drinking coffee. No gift, no money transfer. Just me and Sarah, and that's enough. That's everything I waited for 43 years.